I learned that song like 2 days before I performed it live. Oh my gosh, and I about puked every time I performed on the show. It was just...
Darci Lynne made Simon Cowell's jaw literally drop and had the whole world rooting for her. A teenager with the voice of an angel, the humor of a seasoned comic, and puppetry skills that could rival any Broadway performer. She wasn't just good, she was unforgettable. But here's the thing nobody ever tells you. Behind that perfect smile, those standing ovations, and all that confetti, there's a story so raw, so quietly heartbreaking, you'll wonder how she ever managed to keep performing with the weight she was carrying. Stick with me till the very end. The truth hits hard, and it deserves to be heard. Come along. Darci Lynne wins AGT but faces overwhelming fame. Darci Lynne's journey into the hearts of millions began in the most unexpected and enchanting way. It was May 30, 2017, just another day for most people, but not for Darci. That day marked a turning point in her young life that would change everything she thought she knew about childhood, fame, and dreams. Stepping onto the America's Got Talent stage with nothing but her nerves, her hopes, and a pink puppet named Petunia, the 12-year-old Oklahoma girl was about to deliver something unforgettable. She chose the song Summertime from Porgy and Bess, a classic, a challenging number by any standard, and sang it through her puppet with such poise and vocal strength that even the seasoned judges sat there wide-eyed. Was it real? Was this young girl really throwing her voice while hitting those notes with such clarity and soul? People in the audience literally gasped. It was the kind of moment that makes your skin tingle. You could feel something shift in the room. And then it happened. Mel B, visibly moved, stood up, slammed the golden buzzer with purpose, and showered Darci in golden confetti. That one moment of impact, that resounding buzz, didn't just send Darci to the live shows, it sent her life into overdrive. Within just 30 hours, her audition became the most viewed video in AGT history. Just imagine that. In a little more than a day, a middle schooler from Oklahoma had become a global sensation. Darci, still riding the emotional high from the performance, found herself thrust into a whirlwind. But as amazing as that moment was, it was only the start of something much bigger, something more complex than anyone could have predicted. She came on stage with a puppet, a big smile, and a voice no one saw coming. Darci Lynne wasn't just a talented ventriloquist, she was America's sweetheart. But what happened to her after the lights faded? Behind the standing ovations and golden confetti, Darci faced challenges that no one saw coming. What went wrong? Where did things take a painful turn? If you've ever wondered what fame does to someone so young, this story will open your eyes. Make sure you stay till the end, because the full story is more emotional and more inspiring than you think. As the competition moved forward, Darci continued to dazzle. She introduced new puppet characters, Oscar the Shy Mouse and Edna Dorknocker, a feisty old lady with a crush on Simon Cowell, and proved that her talents were no fluke. Her performances weren't just technically impressive, they were deeply entertaining and emotionally connective. By the time she sang With a Little Help from My Friends for her final performance, viewers had already fallen in love with her. And when the results came in on September 20, 2017, it was official. Darci Lynne was the winner of America's Got Talent Season 12. Not just any winner, either, she had received the most votes ever for an AGT finale. That's history-making stuff. But here's the thing, fame is rarely a one-way ticket to happiness, especially when it arrives so quickly, and especially for someone so young. The level of attention Darci began receiving was staggering. Within weeks, she had amassed millions of followers across social media. Interviews, photo shoots, guest appearances, it all came flooding in. Suddenly, she was on the Ellen DeGeneres Show, performing alongside stars like Terry Fator and Pentatonix. What was originally planned as a modest 5-city tour suddenly ballooned into a 52-venue nationwide spectacle. Her first major solo show sold out in 6 minutes. Yes, 6 minutes. That's not just popularity, that's pandemonium. And yet, even in the middle of all that success, Darci was trying her best to stay grounded. She still had school to think about, friends to see, and a childhood to somehow hold on to. But how do you go back to algebra homework and cafeteria lunches when you've just been on national television in front of 15 million people? That was the dilemma, the part no one prepares you for. Darci returned to Deer Creek Middle School hoping to find some sense of normalcy, but what she found instead was a new kind of pressure. She once shared in an interview that it was a little crazy going back. She explained how 8th grade came with new students, and many of them weren't just curious, they were starstruck. They're all like, "Oh my God. Darci Lynne," she said, half smiling. That kind of attention, day in and day out, can weigh heavily on anyone, let alone a young girl who's just trying to grow up. And it wasn't just her. Her brother Nate, who had never asked for fame, found himself caught in the crossfire. Darci once mentioned how he would come home frustrated, constantly fielding questions about his sister rather than getting to talk about his own life. Can you imagine that? Being a teenager, trying to build your identity, while everyone around you only wants to know about your sibling. Fame, it seemed, wasn't just Darci's burden, it was spilling over into her family too. To manage everything, Darci and her team made a compromise. She would tour on weekends and holidays so she wouldn't miss too much school. On paper, that sounds like a smart solution. But what happens when your weekends are packed with travel, sound checks, performances, and meet and greets, and then your weekdays are filled with math tests, locker gossip, and kids begging you for selfies? That balance is not easy. It's exhausting. And slowly, that blurry line between Darci's private life and her public persona began to wear thin. Where did the girl end and the performer begin? Could she still be a kid while being a star? Those are tough questions, ones even adults struggle to answer. And so, while Darci Lynne's story is one of immense talent and unprecedented success, it is also a story about the hidden costs of fame, especially when it arrives too soon. It's about what happens after the golden confetti falls, when the lights dim and you still have homework due the next day. It's a reminder that even the brightest stars can find it difficult to shine when they're not given enough space to simply be human. Darci battles anxiety and isolation behind the spotlight. Behind the bright lights, viral applause, and the sweet illusion of a dream-come-true story, Darci Lynne's journey was far more complicated than anyone watching from their living room could have imagined. Most people saw a confident, bubbly ventriloquist with a stunning voice and charm far beyond her years. But behind that glowing smile was a young girl quietly battling inner storms that fame only made louder. You know how people often assume that being famous as a kid is just one big ride of happiness and privilege? Well, Darci's story reminds us that sometimes the spotlight doesn't just illuminate talent, it also exposes the pressure, fear, and expectations that come with it. From the very beginning, long before Darci ever stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage, there were signs that the road ahead might be tougher for her than it looked. People who knew her as a child would often describe her as painfully shy. Singing in front of others? That felt like a mountain she couldn't climb. Her parents, noticing how deeply reserved she was, knew something had to change if she was ever going to embrace her talent. So they gently nudged her into the world of pageantry, not for the glitz, but for the hope that it might help her open up. They entered her into the International Cinderella Scholarship Program, hoping it would ease her fear of performing and build her confidence. And while it did help her take those first brave steps, it didn't erase the core of who she was, a girl who felt deeply and worried often. Everything changed, almost overnight, when she won America's Got Talent at just 12 years old. One minute she was a small-town girl with a puppet, the next she was a national treasure. But fame, as it turns out, doesn't give you time to adjust. Suddenly, she was expected to be ready, to perform, to smile, to carry the weight of expectations most adults would crumble under. And she's admitted this herself, "I was just 12 years old and trying to process everything that was happening. It was a lot to handle all at once." Can you imagine that kind of whirlwind? One day you're doing homework, the next you're being interviewed by national media, flying across the country, and reading comments about yourself from strangers online. Even as millions adored her and her shows sold out, Darci battled something few could see, doubt. Not the "what should I wear today" kind, but the kind that whispers, Maybe you're not good enough, even when the world is clapping. She would sometimes wonder if it had all just been a fluke. What if it was just luck? What if I'm not really as good as people think I am? She would think. That creeping imposter syndrome didn't vanish with every encore or fan letter. It lingered, quietly challenging her worth even as her career soared. It's the kind of thing that fame rarely talks about, that behind every standing ovation, there might be a heart quietly trembling. Trying to balance that soaring fame with a normal teenage life proved to be one of her biggest challenges. While other kids her age were worrying about who to sit with at lunch or what to wear to the school dance, Darci was on planes, stages, and red carpets. And while that might sound exciting, and sure, parts of it were, there was a growing longing inside her for just a slice of normalcy. Some days I just wanted to be a normal kid again, she shared. I missed hanging out with my friends, going to school dances, and just living a regular life. Fame had opened doors, but it had also quietly shut others. Was it worth it? That's a question she probably wrestled with more than once.